What are the functions of the skeletal system? There are 5 main functions of the skeletal system. There's support, protection, shape, movement, and production of blood. So support, the skeletal system is basically the framework of our bodies. Um, it supports certain tissues such as the skin and provides attachment for our muscles, because our muscles must attach to something, and that's what helps our bones to move. So muscles help our bones to move. So secondly, there's protection. Um, the skeletal system provides protection for most of our internal organs, such as our ribs protect our heart, lungs, cranium protects our brains, and a vertebrae protects our spinal column. Um, Due to this reduces the risk of injury, and it stops our vital organs from getting harmed. Thirdly, shape. How the skeletal system gives our body shape. Change this. Your shape will obviously change as you grow, and the skeletal system determines your height and width of your body. So fourth, is movement. Bones are held together by ligaments. Um, Muscles are connected to the bone by tendons, and together they are known as the musculoskeletal system. So bones are connected by tendons. Bones are, bones are connected by ligaments, and muscles are connected to bones by tendons. Because of this, when our muscles contract, this produces our bones to move. So, for example, when I'm lifting my hand up, it is because my bicep is contracting. Finally, our fifth function of the skeletal system is production of blood. Within our long bones, such as the femur or thigh bone, there's a section called marrow cavity. Within this cavity is where the blood cells are produced. Red bone marrow produces red blood cells, and there's also yellow bone marrow, which stores our fat. Now, to the next slide is how the skeletal system is divided. There are two parts of the skeletal system. They are the axial and the appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton is a central part of the human skeleton, which protects the vital organs such as the brain, heart, lungs, so forth. Bones within the axial skeleton are cranium, obviously, ribs, sternum, vertebrae column. The function of the skeleton, there are two main functions. First, it is to protect and support our organs in the central body, such as our heart and that. Secondly, is that it creates an attachment for our muscles. Now, the appendicular skeleton consists of mainly our lower body and our arms, so our legs, hands, humors, and all that. Humors. The main function of the appendicular skeleton is movement, as there's a wider possibility of movement available compared to the axial skeleton. the appendicular skeleton is able to move around free spaces because it is exposed to the free space more. What different types of bones are there, and how do they differ in terms of structure? So we have long bone, short bone, flat bone, irregular bone, and sesamoid bone. Our long bones are some of the longest bones in the body, such as the femur, humerus, and tibia, but are also some of the smallest. No, that's wrong. The classification of a long bone includes having a body which is longer than it is wide, with growth plates at either end, having a hard outer surface and compact bone, and a spongy bone inner, known as the cancellous bone, containing bone marrow. Both ends of the bone are covered in cartilage to help protect the bone and aid shock and help with shock absorption. So basically, here is basically where you'd find the marrow cavity, and here is the blue is where the cartilage would be to like stop friction, and protect it more. So an example of this could be the femur, humerus, tibia, so forth. Second is a short bone. Short bones are defined as being approximately as wide as they are long, and have a primary really have one function of providing support and stability with little movement. The carpals and the tarsals in our wrist and feet are example of short bones, and they consist of a thin layer of compact hard bone on the inside, along with relatively large amounts of bone marrow. So the carpals, tarsals, this is in the hand. These are the short bones. They basically help with support. Thirdly is flat bone. Flat bones are, as they sound, strong. They're like flat plates. Their main function is to provide protection to the body's vital organs, as being a base for muscular attachments. An example of a flat bone is a scapula, which is this. This is the shoulder blade. Sternum, which is the front of your body. The cranium, which is your skull. The ribs may also be classified as a flat bone, but not everyone agrees with that, I don't think. The flat bones provide protection, with the center consisting of like cancellous, like bone, spongy bone, and varying amount varies in it depending on what flat bone it is. So the fourth is the irregular bone. So these are bones in the body which do not fall into any other category due to their unorthodox shape. A good example would be the vertebrae, the sacrum, and the lower jaw. They primarily consist of cancellous bone, can't say that right, with a thin outer layer of compact bone. So basically other bones which look funny. So any bone that pretty much has an unorthodox shape is an irregular bone. So the final type of bone is a sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bones are usually short or irregular bones embedded in a tendon. The most obvious example of this is the patella, which you can see on the photo that I've put there, which sits within the patella or the quadriceps tendons, the tendons between the leg bones. Other sesamoid bones are the pisiform and the two small bones at the base of the first metatarsals. Sesamoid bones are usually present in the tendons where it passes over a joint which serves to protect the tendon. So the patella here, you can say it's protecting the tendon that is behind it. What are the different types of joints in the body? There are 6 different types of joints in the body. The first one is the pivot joint. Well, the first of synovial joints is the pivot joint. Pivot joints are joints that allow bones to rotate in a pivot point. A cylinder-shaped bone rotates inside another bone or ligament that forms a ring around it. To see how a pivot functions, to see how this type of joint functions, just turn like your head from side to side in your neck, and in your neck there is a pivot joint, which you can see in the photo I've presented. In your neck there is a pivot joint between your skull and the top of your vertebrae that allows your head to turn. Secondly, it is the hinge joint. A hinge joint is a common class of synovial joints that includes the ankle, elbow, and knee joints. Hinge joints are formed between 2 or more bones where the bone can only move along the axis or flex or extend. So with your elbow is basically where the hinge joint is, because your arm can only be brought up and brought down, it can't move sideways or anything. Saddle joint, it's a little bit more complicated, this one. Each bone in a saddle joint resembles a saddle with concave and convex proportions that fit together. Saddle joints allow angular movement similar to the condyloid joint, which I'll get to just now, but with a greater range of motion. An example of the saddle joint is the thumb joint, which you can see in the photo I've presented, and which can move backward, back and forth, and up and down, which can move more freely than the wrist or fingers. Fourth is the gliding joint. These joints allow for gliding movement. The range of motion is limited and does not involve rotation. Gliding joints are found in the carpal bones in the hand and the tarsal bones in the feet, as well as between the vertebrae.